6 chief parts. If you've been with us the last couple weeks, or if you missed them, go back, check it out. Our weekly devotions here at Trinity. 6 chief parts, right? 6 fundamental truths. If we get these 6 things in our faith life, we're going to grow in our faith. We're going to be strong in our faith, and certainly there's more to our faith than just these 6 chief parts that have been identified by those who've gone before us. But we're centering in on these. Thus far, we have explored prayer, specifically the petitions that Jesus taught a couple different times, called the Lord's Prayer in our prayer life. Then we looked at the Apostles' Creed and how important a creed is to our faith life and the blessings of those truths from our faith and the scriptures that have been put together in a creedal statement. Today, what I want to look at is the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments, the importance of these. And yes, there was a context when God brought His children out of the land of slavery and bondage in Egypt, and He's bringing them into the promised land. There's context there with Moses. But what's beautiful about the 10 Commandments is we see them proclaimed through the prophets for a couple hundred years after Moses, and then also Jesus. And many of you know this, right? Not just in the Sermon on the Mount, but in the rest of His teachings, He brings in the 10 Commandments. And so it's not just a context for Moses' day, it's also for Jesus' day. And then in the early church, you see the rest of the New Testament unpack these 10 Commandments, constantly coming back to them. And so we believe this because God's Word is timeless. There's eternal truth that the 10 Commandments weren't just for Moses, just weren't for Jesus or the Apostle Paul or Peter, but they're also for us. For us. And why did God give them to His children? Why has God given them to us? So that we would have life. So that we would have life. Right? He knows what gives life and what doesn't give life. And so think about this in this context, and I want to share this with you. The 10 Commandments start with, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. Therefore, act this way. Do this. You've been freed, and now live out that freedom this way. Right? Jesus came proclaiming our identity as God's children, saying, hey, right, this is how you're going to live the blessed life as his kids. Right? The Apostle Paul came saying, hey, you've been predestined. God has chosen you before creation. Now live this way. And certainly the 10 Commandments also, right, we understand this, and the Apostle Paul talks about it this way, the 10 Commandments. Right? We do need to be rebuked. We do need to be corrected because we're so prone to do that which does not give us life or our neighbors life. And so let's think about the 10 Commandments in this way as we unpack them right now. So, thou shalt not have no other gods before me. Why would God say that? Because He knows what idols do, what false idols do. They give you hope, but then they end up short every time. I don't know where you hear God saying to you and you hear Him say that to you, have no other gods before me, but so many of us struggle with this. We have idols. We turn to things that give us hope, and it's a false hope. We think marriage is going to satisfy us and our spouse is going to be enough for us. Well, our spouse isn't perfect. Our spouse isn't Jesus. Right? Kids, we think that's the end-all, be-all. Right? Kids are not God. We make them into an idol, and that puts so much pressure in our lives. It's not our identity as parents. Right? Work can be an idol. Right? Work, if I get the right job, all of a sudden everything is going to be at peace. Is that really the case? Is any job the perfect job, the dream job for you? That's why it's called work, right? Money, right? The perfect vacation, right? Maybe the newest technology, maybe the newest car, maybe sports, maybe it's some other hobby that's become an idol, right? Those things leave us if we don't understand that they are not God. They're good, but they're not God, right? They leave us empty, right? Thou shalt have no other gods before me, right? Don't misuse the name of the Lord, right? Don't abuse your relationship with God specifically. And when I always think of don't misuse the name of the Lord your God, right? The power of our mouth, right? Those words that come out of our mouth, they give life or they take life away. God knew that. And not just for others, but so many times, right? We say things, does that really make you feel better? Right? To give false promises, to swear, does that make you feel better? Does that help you? The word vomit, right? All of us, I think if we were honest, right, that doesn't make me feel better. In fact, I feel worse after I word vomit or I'm swearing, right, and I'm cursing, right? Not a good feeling, right? Did God know what He was talking about when He said that? Right? Honoring the Sabbath day. right? Think about that for a moment, right? Resting. Is rest good? Right? One day a week, just rest. And rest in God. And so the sacred assembly, that's a good thing because you're resting in the promises of God. You're being intentional with others in community. Right? Honoring authority, your parents. Right? That gives life. Right? Adultery, murder. Right? The marriage relationship, sexuality, having self-control. Right? Does that give life? Right? Murdering other people. And anger, Jesus talks about unforgiveness, right? Unforgiveness hurts me, then it hurts the person I'm not forgiving. Right? Think about that for a moment. And certainly there's no relationship that exists on this side of eternity where there's not forgiveness. Right? We need to forgive each other. Right? Slandering our neighbor's false testimony. Right? Not cool. Not good, right? Gossiping. Here at Trinity Lutheran School, we talk about stop the gossip. Right? And I told the kids, hey, if you hear your parents gossiping, tell them to stop. Right? Coveting, stealing, right? The 10 Commandments, right? This is a big thing, right? To be grateful for all that God has given to you, right? That envy that rots the bones, that coveting, right? Stealing, to see the good stuff that you have gotten, to work hard. Right? God was wise in giving us the commandments that He's given to us. And so I pray they give life. Right? And I pray they do correct us, right? That they keep us on track, because you and I are prone to wander. We're prone to go after these false truths and bring them into our lives, right? False truth sounds like a bad word. It's because it is, right? We believe it's true, but it's actually a false truth, right? That's what sin is when we fall into lies, and that's contrary to the 10 Commandments that God gave His children so that they would continue to be free. And then Jesus articulates them, read the Sermon on the Mount, and the Apostle Paul and Peter and James, right? All the writers of the New Testament, they expound on those 10 Commandments. So don't forget, God has a word for you, and it's a word of life. And so get into His word. Yes, you will see Jesus, the gospel, forgiveness, but you also see how to live and the choices to make in life. So be blessed this week. And if you're going to worship with us this weekend here at Trinity, know this summer worship schedule begins. 5:30 Saturday night stays the same, and then we have a 9 o'clock in our sanctuary. It's a traditional blended style service, and then 10:30 in our gym. That is a contemporary service. Online, in person. Be blessed and live out those commandments that God has given to you today.